Timothy Snyder's On Tyranny. Tim is standing by to talk to us. This is from the first page of the first chapter of On Tyranny. Quote, most of the power of authoritarianism is freely given. In times like these, individuals think ahead about what a more repressive government will want and then offer themselves without being asked. A citizen who adapts in this way is teaching power what it can do, end quote. In this instance, NBC News, either wittingly or unwittingly, is teaching election deniers that what they can do stretches well beyond appearing on our air in interviews to peddle lies about the sanctity and integrity of our elections, which Ronna McDaniels did yesterday at Meet the Press.
Can you say, as you sit here today, did Joe Biden win the election fair and square?
He won. He's the legitimate president.
Fair and square?
Fair and square, he won. It's certified. It's done. But I
Ronna,
do think,
Kristen,
let me just say something.
To say that, why has it taken you until now to be able to say that?
I'm going to push back a little, because I do think it's fair to say there were problems in 2020. And to say that does not mean he's not the legitimate
Ronna,
president.
when you say
there were no problems. But what we've also said to election deniers is not just they can do that on our airwaves, but that they can do that as one of us, as badge-carrying employees of NBC News, as paid contributors to our sacred airwaves. Joining us now, Yale University history professor, author of the aforementioned and quoted from best-selling book On Tyranny, 20 Lessons for the 20th Century, Timothy Snyder. One of my colleagues sent me a screenshot of that first page, and it gave me chills. And I thought, if I have an opportunity, and I have to say, nobody at this company stopped me from having this conversation with you, and I'm grateful for that, that this was the part of the story that I found most haunting. That what you write is that authoritarianism doesn't come in and take things, but what they do is they learn and they operate in the spaces that they're given. And I wondered through that lens how you see this development and what warnings you have for the media.
I do see it in exactly those terms. What NBC has done is they've invited into what should be a normal framework someone who doesn't believe that that framework should exist at all. What NBC has done of its own volition is bring into a very important conversation about our democracy, one which is going to take place for the next 7 months or so, someone who Ronna McDaniel, who tried to disassemble our democracy, who personally took part in the attempt to undo the American system. And so bringing that in without questioning it is obeying in advance, because essentially what NBC is doing is saying, well, could be that in 24, our entire system will break down. Could be we'll have an authoritarian leader. Oh, but look, we've made this adjustment in advance because we brought into the middle of NBC somebody who has already taken part in the attempt to take our system down. So, yeah, I think this is pretty bad.
Timothy, what is the red line? I mean, I have to just say the other elephant in the room is that I myself have benefited from this network's willingness to add Republicans to its payroll and welcome us into the family. But it seems that Mike Pence wouldn't necessarily be on the other side of that line. Certainly Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger wouldn't be on the other side of that line. But I wonder, you know, the reading of On Tyranny, which I did again over the weekend, is all about what good actors do. And it's getting at this place that you're talking about, that a good faith actor putting into the conversation someone that changes the Overton window actually advances the authoritarian's cause.
Mm-hmm. No, it changes the frame completely. I mean, as far as what lines one could draw, in my mind, it doesn't at all have to do with what party you belong to, although you might say that what Ronna McDaniel did was help transform the Republican Party into a kind of personality cult, which is where we're heading now, right? That's essentially where she's left it, but that's another issue. The lines for me would be things like, if you are going to be on American media, you should be somebody who believes that there is something called truth, that there are things called facts, that you can pursue them. You shouldn't be someone who has over and over and over again pushed the idea of fake news, educated Americans away from the facts, away from a belief in the facts. And a second red line would be something like this. If we're going to be putting people on the news who have participated in an attempt to overthrow the system, then we have to ask at the very beginning, why did you do that? Why is that legitimate? And we have to ask ourselves, why is it that we are taking this step to bring people into the middle of our discussion? So my two red lines would be, you should be somebody who is at least trying to go after the facts, and you shouldn't be somebody who has taken part in the attempt to undo the system, which is what we're talking about here. We shouldn't mince words about it. When she took part from December of 2020 at the latest in an attempt to change the American system by knowingly bringing in these false electoral slates. That's really something quite extraordinary.
Timothy, what should people do who want to end up on the right side of these questions about making sure we're not willingly handing over our airwaves or willingly handing over our power?
Well, I mean, one thing is take a deep breath and think about the overall structure of the system, because it's not just a matter of opinions. It's a matter of structures. And two basic structures that we have are, one, the belief in factuality. If everybody gives up on factuality, at the end of the day, there won't be an NBC or an MSNBC. There won't be media in the sense that we believe in them. And so then it should be an alarm bell should ring if you're dealing with people who have said fake news over and over and over again. Another thing people should think about is they should make a distinction between, again, it's not about Democrats or Republicans or conservatives or liberals or progressives or whatever it might be. It's about people who sincerely believe that we have a constitution which allows us, which gives us a framework for discussion, a framework for this section of power. Or are we talking about people who really believe that this system is done for, that we should have one person rule? Right. And it's perfectly fine so long as you have that one person to put him in power against the rules and just let him sit there. That's a completely different category of person. And we now know, because we have the experience of January 2021, who was on what side of the line. We've had a trial run. We know who's on what side of the line, and we can't pretend that we don't have that knowledge.
Tim, can you say something about appeasement? Because so much of the subtext of this is seeking to appease an opposing view. I mean, there's this notion that if you appear on opinion television, you'll anger the Trump side, and then, maybe you can't work in the White House unit if Trump wins. There's this instinct to treat him normal and to sort of appease the other political side. But your point is that that's the wrong frame to have around all of our thinking.
Yeah, normalizing him is beyond your power. You're not going to have access to the White House in any kind of normal sense, because there won't be a White House in the normal sense. If Trump is in office, we're dealing with somebody who has already said, and we have every reason to believe him, that he's going to persecute his political opponents. He's going to persecute the people he regards as espousing fake news, which is precisely anybody who says what he doesn't want to say. So this is not a normal political situation where you give a little and you get a little. You can give as much as you want to Trump between now and November, but you're not going to get anything back in January 21. And the perverse thing is that if you practice giving things away to Trump now over the next 7 months, all you have done is practice. All you've done is gotten better at appeasing him after January of 25, should he win. So this is like a trial run for NBC and everyone else to say, OK, we're going to practice appeasing a dictator. And then when the dictator comes, we're going to be better at it. Is that what you should be doing? I don't think so.
Tim Snyder, it's a scary thing to cover your own place of employment. The page is seared into my brain. I've read it so many times now, and to get to talk to you about it today is a privilege. Thank you so much.
I appreciate your doing this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Sir, from Timothy Snyder's on tyranny. Tim is standing by to talk.